Okay, hello everybody. Welcome out to Trade Masters, brought to you by Tackle Trading. I'm your host, Tim Justice, and it's Wednesday night, which means it's time for our favorite showdown of the week. Every week, right here at 6 p.m. Eastern, two of our top coaches go head to head to find the hottest trading setups in the market. They'll bring their best charts, strongest technicals, and most compelling trade ideas. And you'll get to decide who takes home the crown as this week's Trade Master. If you're passionate about trading, analysis, and sharpening your skills, you're in the right place. Make sure to grab your notebook, drop your comments in the chat, and get ready to learn from some of the best traders in the business. Before we dive in, one thing that I would like everybody to do is make sure that you like and subscribe to the channel, get active, turn off all your distractions. Let's have a really engaging show today. And if you're out there and you're not yet a pro member of Tackle Trading, sign up for a free trial and join us at the Master Traders session on November 17th and 18th. I will drop the link in the chat so that you can register for that. We've got two coaches here from Tackle Trading tonight. We've got Bobby Dragon, also known as Bobby D, and Coach Frank, the Tank. How are you guys doing? Let's start with you, Bobby.
Doing well. Just happy to be back. Another week, another time against my man Frank Martin over here. So we'll see what happens tonight and see who takes home the crown.
Yeah, it's
Yeah,
going to be
absolutely.
fun.
Looking forward to hearing it. Frankie, how you doing, sir?
Doing good. Great to hear your voice. Great to see you, my friend. Welcome to not your first Trade Masters, but your first Trade Masters in a hot minute. Great to have you here with us, my friend. And I'm excited to have you skew the votes in my favor. So appreciate that. Let's look out for your old friend here. There's some good setups in the market, but before we kind of look at them, just kind of dialing in where we are in the market as a whole, here you see the S&P 500 futures, big pop up, a little bit of volatility to kick the week off, but now we're starting to see some slowing momentum, starting to see that support build at that really important old resistance level, which lines up very, very nicely with that 20-period moving average. Still got to get a little bit of confirmation, right? We maybe not quite ready for prime time, but if we can build off of today, create that higher high, higher low type of situation in the next day or two, it's going to look an awful lot like a pivot. Intraday cleaning up really, really nice. If I had a nickel for every time Eddie had drawn me that trend line over the course of the last 5 days or so, well, I'd be able to buy myself a dollar taco or something along those lines. It's really dialing it in, still a little bit early at this stage of the game, but that's how pullback analysis works, right? You pull back into a zone, you start to build support. You want it to take some time to build support because that cleans up that intraday. That helps us as a collective group of traders feel comfortable about that support level. Now we're just waiting for confirmation, right? Got to see a little upward movement. Never hurts to ask, though, as Bobby is as want to say. So really good look, and no surprise, Tim, with the pullback in the market as a whole, there are several very intriguing retracement candidates on individual components here as well, including both of the names that I am going to be looking at. So keep an eye on that high from today as we work into the next couple of days. Let's see if we can get this support build, get that confirmation, and giddy up and go. But I'm excited for round one here. So I'm not even going to give Bobby the chance. I'm just going to go first. Bobby, how you like them apples?
Go right ahead.
So, we got pullback round here. I'm starting with Still Dynamics. Still Dynamics.
Well, before you get into
go
that,
ahead.
I did hear a minute ago that you were trying to bias and sway the judge over here. I'm not really the judge, I'm just the host, but I am the neutral arbiter and the integrity of this game, Frank. So I cannot be bought. You're going to have to bring strong analysis. That's the only way to win this game.
Fair enough. I like how you're pretending that you're not going to cheat for me. I like the illusion here. Wink, wink. I'm 100% on board with it there, T. And that's not going to be tough. Could look at Still Dynamics here. I mean, this thing is an absolute thing of beauty. We are just coming out of earnings, right? And earnings push us through an extremely, extremely important level of resistance. Still Dynamics, up until this past couple of weeks, it had been trading in a range between approximately 153 and approximately 105, going all the way back into April of last year. That is some real sideways action. It did not want to pick a direction. That is a long, long time to be sideways. Sooner or later, though, nothing stays sideways forever. Sooner or later, you're breaking up or you're breaking down, right? Well, we know where the story's at here. We got that big breakout on earnings and a tremendous initial run after that earnings announcement, much like everything, or most things I should say in the market. These guys have been, in that pullback phase as well, right? Not a bad thing at all. If they didn't deserve a break, who did, right? Who did? But look where they stopped, right there at that old resistance level, right there at that 20 period moving average. That's exactly where I would want them to stop, right? I didn't get to trade the breakout. If you think about the original breakout day, and I probably would have called that like the 21st, but whatever you would have called it is fine with me. If I got in there, I'm getting in basically the same price today, but today I have additional confirmation that it wants to hold that breakout, right? It's been above that resistance level since that 21st candle. So this is giving me an opportunity to get involved on the breakout that I wasn't able to get into because of earnings rules, if nothing else, right? With when that earnings or when that breakout occurred. Now I'm able to get into the same price on a nice little pullback at a very strong level of support. Bonus, you get the 20 period moving average as well, right? Looking at today, you got basically 2 days now back in a row where nothing has happened, right? We're just sitting right between the rising 9 and the rising 20. So very clean on the intraday as well. Just need a little bit of upward movement here in my estimation. These are high water marks for Steel Dynamics too. So the sky is the limit, so to speak, right? Who knows where we want to go. But I think when we're looking at something like this, a very easy and sensible thing to do is, well, where were we? Oh my gosh, all the way back a whole week ago. Well, we were pushing up at that 165 level, right? I think a little shy of that. Actual high was 164.73, but you know me, I'm calling it 165 because math. I think that's a very easy first target for these guys. The range target, though, if you think about the long-term range it's been in, that thing, and that is not a swing target, by the way, but that puts us over 190. I'm not going to target 190 for my second target, but that does give me confidence in thinking I can pretty confidently target it well beyond that swing high for that secondary target. I would settle in at 175 personally, but again, 190 is kind of where I expect it to go. I just don't expect it to go there without needing some secondary patterns to develop along the way. So I kind of like the 165 by 175 target, but you could, there's some room for debate there, I guess, at all-time highs. I love this guy. You can play shares, you can play calls, you can play, debit spreads. Anytime I get a stock that breaks out of a massive range, I want some of that action. I don't always get it though, right? I do get a second chance on Steel Dynamics, right? And as I was talking to Maddie a little while ago, and I think he said it best. If you can't trade Steel Dynamics on this pattern, you might as well take Steel Dynamics off your watch list. So anything over the high of the last couple of days, stop loss underneath these lows here from the last couple of days, that's below that breakout channel. Giddy up and go, and let's see how far you can roll Steel Dynamics.
Not pulling punches here. You're bringing your strong candidate here first. I'm assuming this is the stronger out of the two. This is a really, really good setup. There's a lot I really like about the chart. Post earnings rally, the volume picks up, good reaction to that. Even had a carry through, a couple strong candles there on the 25th, 6th, 7th, until we had the distribution and the pullback. But this kind of setup, especially for traders, we like knowing where our entry is. We like knowing where our trigger is, and then having a real simple trade management plan from there, swing and position potential targets. Real strong candidate. Bobby, any thoughts on Steel Dynamics before we get into yours?
No, I mean, Frank hit it on the head. I mean, this setup right here is definitely in a good spot. And, it's definitely, one of those, ones that you can just print out and put on your refrigerator, just how nice it's, structured.
Yeah. And, shout out to Greg Jones in the chat. Welcome back to me. I appreciate that, Greg, and appreciate the kind words. It's good to be back with the team. Let's get into Bobby's candidate next. BBIO is what Bobby's got to go up against Steel Dynamics. Go ahead, Bobby. Walk us through the analysis.
Yeah, taking a look at this chart, it's a little bit different than, your STLD kind of retracement here, but this is a post earnings play as well. he had a nice little earnings here, broke out, hit its head over there at that 69.48, kind of retraced back, back down into, that 9 moving average here. Structured held, you got your doji, got your confirmation candle today. Very structured. BBIO, if you look at a long-term chart on this, it's definitely it's just shy of its all-time high here. I think its all-time high is at 73.50 on a longer-term chart. Looking at this long-term chart here, it's just shy of its all-time high. Structured, it's, if you look at last couple of years, it looks like it's just kind of more of a turnaround story. 2022 was kind of beat up, trying to figure out what it wanted to do, and the last couple of years it's just been a juggernaut trying to reclaim its all-time highs here. So structure wise on this, like I said, it's a nice little post earnings little pullback into the flag. Definitely entry would be over today's candle. Stop, I like to price out stops in a couple different ways. You can either go below today's candle, which gives you that 9 moving average along with today's candle plus, or you can go under yesterday's candle, which gives you that doji pivot. Preferably I would probably play the stop below that, because if you go on an intraday chart and look at the hourly here, you can definitely see, or 15-minute, you could definitely see where that double bottom is, where that zone would be where you want to put your stop loss on here. So definitely structured nicely here on the intraday chart, and definitely looking at the long-term charts and looking at this daily chart, you got a good structure down into that 9. Strategy wise, options aren't bad. If you look at the options here, I was looking at the December's options are relatively liquid, maybe not the best liquidity here, but you still can get, if you go do a 65.7, you can get about $1.50. Or you can go out and play shares. It's cheap enough where I think you can grab a few shares and play something, as a, more of a swing trade, but definitely in a great spot. Definitely for me, a swing trade, whether it's with options or stock. I think, BBIO has a good case to, reclaim those all-time highs at, 73.50.
Yeah, I mean, it's definitely a great chart, and the reward to risk dynamics on this one for the swing setup are intact, where you've got stop and entry and targeting there, even to the high. Even if you had a real conservative target at 70, I think you could still make this one work for a swing trade. But I like this one as well. Frank, any thoughts on BBIO?
Yeah, I do like this setup quite a bit, and I love the risk to reward, because when I look at that weekly chart, I say this a lot. When I'm looking at a chart, I'm like, why doesn't it do that? And I look at that weekly chart and I say, why isn't this going to test those all-time highs? And I can't come up with one good reason as to why it's not going to do so. So I would expect it to. I would expect that that would be where I was targeting to ultimately, is the real target, so to speak, which is, with the way Bobby's got it built, little over 3 to 1 on the risk to reward. So just because of that, I think it's a particularly compelling. But me, Tim knows me, Bobby knows me. You get a pull back into the 9, can't bet on the 9. What can you bet on? I do really like this guy here. Now, I'm not going to say I like him enough to have him defeat Steel Dynamics. I'll stick with my choice, but Bobby did bring it. He did bring it. I got no beef with his pick here.
Yeah, I think it's going to be a toss-up out there for anybody watching on one or the other. Put both on your list to watch and play a little bit. All right, guys, and I do like the pitch over into the options market a little bit there, Bobby. You could have some structured risk, keep that thing a little bit lower. There is potential there, but the shares are cheap enough that you could also play the shares. So different avenues that you could take this swing trade with. So really cool. All right, guys, first one's down. Let's move on to the next one. We'll just keep rotating back and forth. Frank, you are up with MMM.
Okay. See, I like how you mix it up. We usually snake draft, but I'm good. I'm good with going again here. And look, typically I like to find things that have different looks, right? I want to bring a retracement and a breakout, or a high base and a reversal. I like to kind of find things that just look a little bit different, right? I think we like that in our watch list. I know I do. But the simple reality is this: I couldn't choose between 3M and Steel Dynamics, and I couldn't not look at them both with the team. I mean, it was as simple as that. So it's some interesting breakout candidates. And by the way, I will throw my scan into the New Traders Discord channel as soon as we're done here. So come on over and get it if you would like it. It's not a whole lot different analysis, at least from a starting point. to our friends at Still Dynamics. Unlike Still Dynamics, these aren't all-time highs on our good friends at 3M. They've been much higher, as a matter of fact. You just have to go back, give or take a decade, back into 18. But this has been a great turnaround story on 3M, really for the last year. And they've just consistently won battles and won fights. So that's kept them on my mind. Now I've got a very similar situation to 3M, where you had the big breakout on earnings, leaves your poor boy Frank behind and saying, I hate earnings. That's why I hate earnings season. I would have caught that otherwise. Maybe I would have, right? Maybe I wouldn't have, but in my head, I would have. So, well, I didn't get to, a rule's a rule, but now I've pulled right back into that breakout channel, very much like Still Dynamics. And I'm getting that second chance to make a first impression on my good friends at 3M. And that's exactly what I'm thinking about doing here. I don't think we're thinking too much differently from an entry point of view, right? We just kind of need to get back over today's high, stronger today, but very similar last 2 days of price action overall. We've got just a little bit of upward movement. And I think we are confirmed. You can see that intraday level. That's already arguably done all you needed it to do, right? On the short-term intraday timeframes. You got the bottoming pattern. You've seen some nice movement into that trend line. A little bit of upward movement pushes you all the way through that. You're above everything from a moving average perspective in that scenario. Much like Still Dynamics, I think we target our first target to that recent swing high, at the 171 and 172 ballpark. And then they do have an old pivot, at around 175 that I do think could play a little bit of a role for these guys as well. Now, it doesn't really scare me but I am going to respect it, right? I'm not going to be afraid of it, but I am going to be like, well, that is where it ended before, right? After a pretty good turnaround story back in 2020, it kind of, crossed over at that level and got slammed back down. So that is definitely an area that we want to keep an eye out for. But if we can get through that, and again, I'm going to give things the benefit of the doubt while I'm showing respect to levels of resistance. The trend has been strong for a year plus now. I would expect that is a battle, but I think it can win that battle. And if it does, you got a really clear path into the low 180s, and then we're not too far away from all-time highs. So I think you can target this one in a couple of different ways. I think you could kind of look at the swing high by 175. And if you're thinking a pure swing trade, that's probably how I would think about it, is swing high 175. That's going to be, a solid, not spectacular, but a good solid 2-to-1 type of trade. I think you don't have to be too scared of this recent swing high. I'm going to target 175 with a little bit more of a position, view on it, right? This isn't a 1 week trade. I wouldn't expect. I'm going to target that 175. That's not that far away from the swing high, but that was just a swing high. If we had tested this recent resistance level more, I would be more concerned about it. And again, I could understand if somebody said you need to be more concerned about it. I wouldn't fight them on that, but I don't think I'm all that afraid of it, to be honest with you. So I like the 175 by 180, 182 targets on these guys. If you are willing to take a long swing into position, that's not a long-term trade, right? If you want to basically quarterly play this thing, I got no problem with that either, right? And be looking at that 180 and then closer into the 200 for the quarterly target. So I think it depends on you, if what kind of time frame trader you are. I'm kind of that swing to position. I guess that's how at least I would consider myself. So I do like that. Again, it's 3M, so you're gonna have some options here on this. If you want something, you can play shares, and that's not a bad thing, right? It is a little pricey. It's not outrageous, but it's certainly not cheap. I wish it was $16 instead of $164, right? But if wishes were fishes, you can go with kind of a traditional December spread, 165, 175. That's going to get you a 25 net delta. Not going to run you too terribly much in that $3 ballpark. You want something a little bit more aggressive into the 170 by 180 December spread. That's going to be closer to $2. Going to give you pretty good risk to reward. You're just going to need a little bit more movement, right? That's more of a trend trade type of analysis. You could just pop some calls. I don't like to pop calls, Tim, so I never pitch it, but that would be in play here on 3M. You could certainly justify that with the way the options are priced. So I think strategy kind of is dealer's choice. I do think you have a few options from a trader's perspective. My choice on targets is the 175 by 180. Just need a little upward movement over today's high. Stop loss underneath these last 2 days, and let's see where 3M wants to go if he wants to continue this turnaround story that he's been on for quite some time.
Classic 2-to-1 reward to risk setup on a retracement with a pretty good trigger. I like it. I got to be blunt. I like the first one better. I do think you brought your better candidate in the first round, but
I had to
it's a good
intimidate
solid
Bobby.
setup.
Yeah,
you came out swinging. I like it. We'll see if you're like the Toronto Blue Jays and you go down in extra innings here. We'll find out. Bobby, any thoughts on 3M before we get into your pick?
Absolutely not. This is just like a Frank kind of described it, just a perfect, structure pullback, kind of similar to his STLD chart, but how he placed it is the same way I would do, a nice little target to 75. So nothing more to add to that. Frank kind of hit it on the nail, and it's definitely an interesting chart.
Sounds great. We're moving on. Last one here, Bobby, going up against 3M. You've got American Express. Walk us through this one.
Yeah, absolutely. First one, I always like to come out with, with the retracement. I know Frank did back-to-back retracements, so I figured I would give the community here a little bit of a high base look out there. AXP is, the structure on this one is just, fantastic. You're right at your all-time highs. You broke out on, your earnings, giving you that little secondary entry here. Giving your traders, another second chance here, but just a perfect structure of a high base textbook. On the weekly chart, if you pull up a weekly chart here, you could see here just a structure as well on here, giving you those giving you the inside candle this week, plus, giving you good structure on this one. Biggest thing on AXP, sorry, is just, how, you can easily just, entry over the high, stop below today's candle, or, you could go, I think the low is last week's candle right in there, or you can go under there.
Nice spot.
Yeah, dealer's choice depends on the trader as well. Here, targets for me on a breakout like this, when you're at all-time highs, I think the pay range makes sense. Kind of going back in history and just seeing, what is its typical run on a breakout, or what's its typical run to a certain spot where you until it gets you a secondary pattern. For here, I think a target makes sense around the 395 400 here on AXP. You also can be conservative, but I think in that zone is where you'll get your next little pay range. I think I didn't map out the Fibonacci, but I think it'd probably be around the same range here. But dealer's choice, as like Frank said on 3M, or you could do options on this one, or you can even do stock depending on the trader. For me, I kind of like looking at mostly the 390 400, 395 405 as well. I think right there would kind of give you a fixed risk. Like I said, your target's at 400, so fixed risk there. And I don't know if I have any more to say on AXP. I mean, like I said there, it's just a beautiful structure, high base, and target to 400.
Interesting. You pull out the Fibonacci reference. It made me, really think about
coming back.
Yeah. I was trying to come up with a dad joke on like rabbits or something. I couldn't get there that quick. I'm not that fast yet, Frankie. But American Express,
you are
one of the market leaders, one of the juggernauts. I love the high base breakout. I really like that you went with a different pattern. We had retracements across the board. We're going with something different here, and it's got clear sailing up on that longer term target to 400 on a position type deal. And pay ranges analysis kind of puts us there. So great job riding the lightning, riding the 9 EMA. I really like all of these candidates here, guys. I don't know if it's my job to like crown a winner here, Frankie.
We all win. We all win. We're
all winners.
I mean, just say, unofficially, right? No, Frank won, but really we all win, right? It's kind of the philosophy that I embrace, at least. here
I think
in the Trade
I think
Masters.
I'm split. I like Frank for the first round, and I like Bobby on the second round. I mean,
you
I'm
go.
actually split. So we might need a tiebreaker out there in the audience, guys. Tell us what you thought of tonight's show. You know, which of the stocks really grabbed your attention the most. Obviously, put all 4 of them on your watch list and keep track of them, and you know, keep coming back to Trade Masters. A
Yeah.
couple of last thoughts. Number one, we do have our Master Trader event coming up here. I just dropped a link in the chat. Matt dropped one earlier as well, November 17th and 18th. Sign up for a pro membership, and then you can attend that webinar and come and learn from the great Matt Justice, the CEO at Tackle Trading. He's going to be teaching a lot of really amazing, you know, technical analysis concepts, you know, giving you a rundown of the markets, things like that. It's a course that you do not want to miss, especially if you've not ever been through something like that. And even if you're coming back, it's a good one to get a refresher on. Last thoughts from the coaches. Bobby, send us out with your last thought.
Oh, I mean, like Frank mentioned with the breakdown here on ES, I mean, you got a little volatility this week. You know, you're kind of, you know, you got a doji today. So tomorrow will be the question: do you want to get confirmation, or do you want to go down, you know, break lower into the 50? So it's kind of a wait and see game, you know, for me. But, you know, like I said, I love the structure pullback. There's a lot of, you know, pullbacks in the market. If you scan, you'll find a lot of pullback. So, like I said, it's, you know, just wait and see what, you know, if you get that confirmation or not tomorrow.
Fantastic. Frankie, final thought from you.
Yeah. Well, listen, everybody wants a pullback till they get a pullback. Not the folks at Tackle Trading, right? We embrace this pullback analysis, but it's funny. You look out in the world of social media, you get a pullback and the end is near. It seems like pullbacks are very healthy and needed in the market. So whether we confirm here or not, we're going to continue to track this pullback. We're doing that every single day in the lounge, looking at things both from a daily and an intraday perspective. So when we get this, whether it's on the S&P 500, on gold, on any individual stock that we're tracking as a team, we'll be there when we get that confirmation. Confirmation is important, but pullbacks are important. And the great thing about pullbacks is they give us time, right? We let that support level develop, and we have time to decide, okay, who do I want, right? I can't trade every pullback in the market. Lord knows I'm going to try, you know, Bobby knows I'm going to try, but, you know, I'm going to have to make some tough choices. You just are going to lose out to somebody else because, well, there's only so much you can do, right? So you got plenty of time during this pullback to kind of map out that next plan, because we're just waiting for our confirmation. Know what you want, why you want it. Of course, we'll be breaking it all down every single morning in our lounge. So if you're not yet a member of Team Tackle, you know there's not a better day than today to get over there, sign up for that pro membership, come hang out with us in the lounge, hang out with Maddie in the Master Trader here in a couple weeks. This is the best community, bar none, out there. I firmly believe that. So I'll leave it at that. I'll get my scan in Discord here for anybody who wants it. But as always, thank you, team. And Tim, great to have you, my friend. Nice
Great to have you
nice
back.
job.
Yeah, what a wonderful way to spend a Wednesday night. Subscribe to the channel, like this show. Make sure you come back every Wednesday. We will see everybody next week.